Will there be upsets or will it be chalk? Picks for the quarterfinals coming up next.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome into the Tuesday edition, New Year's Eve edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. My name's Barrett Sallee. You can follow me on all of the social media accounts at Barrett Sallee. 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 L's, and 2 E's. We do have a busy show. Like I said, the day is here. It's New Year's Eve. We've got a quarterfinal tonight. We've got 3 more on New Year's Day. So we're excited about that. Of course, we will make picks. We also have a quote from a coach in the quarterfinals who has an idea about a college football commissioner, plus tweaks to the CFP. Are they coming? We have more news on that. But let's get right down to it, right? Let's get right down to it. It is time for picks for the college football playoff. Now, if you ever needed proof that changes need to be made to the format, look no further than the first game of the playoff. Also the second. We'll get to that in a second. But Penn State, 11-point favorites over Boise State, despite the fact that the Broncos are coming off of the bye. I know Ashton Jeanty's got all the pub. I get it. I voted for him for the Heisman Trophy. He was my pick ahead of Travis Hunter on my ballot, followed by Dylan Gabriel, for those paying attention. But take the Nittany Lions, lay the points. They will win and win relatively easily. Here's why. What's the best defense for a guy like Ashton Jeanty? Keep him on the sideline. Keep him on the sideline. That's what Penn State can do. With Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton, they can grind out possessions. 10, 12, 14 play possessions. And keep Jeanty over there. Because if you watch Ashton Jeanty all year long, you notice he's kind of a grinder himself, right? He'll have a 2-yard gain, a 4-yard gain, a 5-yard gain, a 3-yard gain, and then bam, 60. Well, the way you prevent those bam moments from happening is to keep them on the sideline. And I think Penn State can do that. I don't think they're going to ask Drew Allard to do a lot through the air. That's generally how they've operated anyway. But I know what you're asking. Well, how do they keep Ashton Jeanty on the sideline? After all, he's Ashton Jeanty. Nobody stopped him yet, right? I'm all about the Derek Dooley method. Do the Derek Dooley method. Send out 14 players, 13 players like he did in Baton Rouge over a decade ago. Like, seriously, put 9 guys in the box if you're Penn State. Put 9 guys in the box and say, okay, Maddox Madsen, you beat us. You beat us. If you can do it, tip your hat. James Franklin and company, tip your hat and say, good job, dude. That was awesome. But do not let Ashton Jeanty do it. And I think Penn State's capable of doing that. And look, I think in this one, it might come down to how creative Andy Koltanecki can be. If he trusts his rushing attack and doesn't get crazy, I think they'll be fine. This is a type of game, though, that James Franklin typically loses. Going to happen. To me, this feels like it's going to be a battle of who's the most physical team. In reality, it is Penn State. So what I see in this is kind of an ugly, slow, boring, not very visually appealing game. And in the end, you see Singleton or Allen rip off a big one, and they win by 2 touchdowns. To me, that feels like what this game will be. It doesn't feel like a blowout in terms of how it's played on the field. It feels like it's going to be a heavyweight fight. A slow, plodding heavyweight fight with Penn State throwing the knockout blow midway through the fourth quarter. Okay, another double-digit game. The one I'll be at covering for Locked On, for Outkick, for all those places, SiriusXM as well. The Peach Bowl, Texas and Arizona State. Now, I'm fascinated to see what happens in this game because today I got an email from an offshore sports book that is basically full of Quinn Ewers lines. Where is he going to play next year? Is he going to play at Texas, the NFL, or somewhere else? All these different options out there of where Quinn Ewers is going to play. That tells you about the confidence the outside world has in Quinn Ewers. I don't think it's that same feeling within the walls of that Texas football complex. They do trust Quinn Ewers. I don't think he's a difference maker. I think that's been proven that he's more of a game manager than a difference maker, and that's fine. The first job of a quarterback is to manage the game. But I think when all is said and done, when you look at how this game is going to go, sort of like what I just said about Penn State and Boise State, the best way to stop this Texas offense is to keep them on the sideline. You don't want that Wisner blue 1-2 punch wearing you down. So what do you do if you're Arizona State? You give it to Scadaboo. You let Scadaboo do it. Now, I don't think Sam Levitt can win a game with his arm. I don't think so. But I think Scadaboo can shorten the game. I think he's going to have enough success against the Texas defense that is fantastic to at least limit possessions. So that's going to give Arizona State at least a puncher's chance in the second half. They're not going to get the job done. I think ultimately Levitt's going to make a couple of mind-numbingly poor decisions. Arizona State's going to pay for it. And Texas is going to get out of there with a win. Texas is significantly more talented. And in a game like this, you look at where the weak link is, and it is at quarterback. It is the passing game. And I think Texas, with that secondary, can expose that. It's one thing to be one-dimensional by choice. It's another thing to be one-dimensional by necessity. I think Arizona State is one-dimensional by necessity. So as long as Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers, they don't deviate from the game plan they've had all year long, I think they'll be fine. They'll get the job done. But Arizona State, they'll have some tricks up their sleeves. They're going to let it all hang out, and they'll cover. It's a big line, man. Even if it's a backdoor cover, I'm totally fine with that. So take Arizona State to cover, but Texas to win. All right, Ohio State and Oregon. Oregon fans, you were all over me. I deserved all that punishment. I deserved to be yelled at by you. I did not believe in your Buckeyes against Tennessee. I'm not believing them again against Ohio State. I'm just not. And the time off will help for Oregon. It'll help them get healthy. It'll build some depth. And that's the biggest thing. Depth along the defensive line is going to be huge in this game. Physicality is going to be huge in this game. I know Tennessee wasn't able to expose that Ohio State offensive line. Oregon's got the dudes that can do it. And having time to rest and having time to scout is going to be huge. And so it comes down to this. And, it's simple analysis, say a best quarterback wins. But who do you trust more in a tough game, in a big spot? Dylan Gabriel or Will Howard? I trust Dylan Gabriel more. I trust Will Howard more than I did, earlier in the season after what he did to Tennessee. But still, I think when you look at how Dylan Gabriel has operated, when you see how that offense is structured with the 1-2 punch at running back and mixing Dylan Gabriel in on design runs, not all the time, but enough to make him a threat. That Oregon team they're the number one seed for a reason. It's not fair that they have to play Ohio State in the quarters. We'll talk about that next segment. But I still think they're better than Ohio State. I think they'll get the job done. in the Rose Bowl, a game that we will immediately follow. We'll have a postcast of that game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, a squad show. So, taking Oregon, taking them close. I don't love the pick. If I was going out there and betting this with your money, I would not do it. But we got to make picks, right? That's kind of our job around here. All right, last one. Notre Dame and Georgia. Georgia's a 1-point favorite. Essentially, this is picking. A lot of focus will be on Gunnar Stockton, and I realize that. And we talked about this last week. I think he's more of a fit for what this particular Georgia team needs than Carson Beck. Plus, Carson Beck was a liability for the majority of the season, or not half the season. Having the running element of Gunnar Stockton is going to be big because Georgia has not been able to run the football effectively essentially all season. They've been good, but they haven't been great. Having that mobility is a way for Mike Bobo to diversify that offense and keep that Notre Dame defense on its heels. I think the biggest thing about this is Mike Bobo and what does he do when Gunnar Stockton goes through that lull, has a couple of mistakes? Does he ask him to throw himself out of that funk, or does he rein it back in? Common sense would say he reins it back in, but this is Mike Bobo. He does some head-scratching things from time to time. Carson Beck, he asked him consistently, hey, dude, throw yourself out of this funk. I think he might do that to Gunnar Stockton a time or two. At least a time or two too many. And on the flip side with Notre Dame, I know Georgia's defense is lights out and Notre Dame's offense is boring as hell. And it is, but they're the best boring team in college football for a reason. And they can run the dang ball. Losing Riley Mills defensively, big deal, but they can run the dang ball. Jeremiah Love, if you don't know who he is, you haven't been paying attention. He's been awesome. Moving Riley Leonard around, getting him in space, bootlegs, things like that. Notre Dame's done an effective job of that. Give me the Fighting Irish to not only cover the one, but win straight up. I think they're a better football team, even with Carson Beck, and perhaps even more so if Carson Beck is starting for Georgia. Notre Dame's a better football team, a more complete football team. And from a matchup perspective, this one feels like a low-scoring, ugly affair. That's how both teams probably want to play. I think in this case, Notre Dame is more equipped to do so. Just give me the Irish. Give me the Irish all day, all night, all evening long. And it's going to be late evening out there at the Sugar Bowl. We'll take a break. When we come back, tweaks to the college football playoff. Could they be coming? We'll break them down. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. And, of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscription, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in just one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. I'll tell you what, I had streaming services all over the place. Rocket Money showed me, hey, you have all these. I canceled 2 of them. I was like, I don't watch that. I don't need that. Cancel 2 of them right there on the spot. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, changes to the college football playoff. There are 2 double-digit spreads in the quarterfinals this weekend, and I think it's pretty obvious why. Boise State, the 3 seed, got that spot because they won the Mountain West. They were a top 4 conference champion. Same with Arizona State, double-digit dog to Texas. So this from my good friend Brett McMurphy from the Action Network. He says, and I quote, that There are talks being had about changing the automatic qualifier performance or automatic qualifier status for conference champions, that you would just take the top 4 seeds and put them as 1 through 4. They get buys no matter what conference they come from. I think it's pretty safe to say where this is coming from and how this discussion went down. Basically, it's the SEC and Big Ten saying, screw you guys. We don't want our teams playing tough quarterfinal games when they should be getting buys. Oregon and Ohio State, a perfect example. Should 2 of maybe the top 3 teams in the country, you could argue maybe even the top 2 teams in the country, be playing in a quarterfinal? No. The reason they are is because of this stupid system that rewards conference champions with the top 4 seeds. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That, yeah, it's easy. Go ahead. Top 4 seeds. Done and done. Sign off. All good. Yeah, that seems that easy. It's not. It's not that easy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do this, if they do this, conversations must be had in a very delicate way. Do you think that the ACC, the Big 12, the all group of 5 conferences are going to sit there and say, you know what? Yeah, it sucks that Boise State and Arizona State got the 3 and 4 seed. It sucks that Clemson had a chance, had something happened on rivalry. Yeah, it's let's change it. Let's change it. No, that's not happening. None of those conferences are going to agree to that. It's the SEC and it's the Big Ten, and they're on an island in this. So my 2 words of advice for everybody else outside of those 2 power conferences is tread lightly. And my advice to all of you championing this idea is to tread lightly. There are unintended consequences to everything in this world, not just in sports, but to everything, right? The unintended consequences from expanding the playoff to 12 is now you got everybody pissed off about the top 4. I think we all got to see it coming, but that's the unintended consequence. So what can happen in this situation? Well, the SEC and Big Ten can take their ball and go home. They can just be like, screw you guys. We don't want to deal with this. Why would we give you a top 4 seed and a bye when we're the best teams in the country? Generally speaking, that's right. The SEC and Big Ten generally are going to be they're going to have the 2 top teams, probably 4 of the top 6, maybe even more than that. Right? So if Jim Phillips or Brett Yormark come out there and start stomping their feet and saying, we have to have this, the SEC and the Big Ten, Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey would be like, deuces, we're out. We're creating a super league. We might invite some of your teams, we might not. And we're going to have 3 Division I conferences or 3 Division I subgroups, not just 2, which is what we have right now. So it's nice in theory. And, credit to Brett McMurphy from the Action Network breaking the story, because he has great connections, and I am fully on board with him and his reporting. There's no reason to doubt him. But this can do more harm than good. Look, I hate the 12-team playoff. All of you know that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I'm also going to champion the sport of college football. I'm going to do all I can to make it better. And yes, eliminating that automatic top 4 spot, automatic bye for conference champions, in theory, is the right way to go about this. I don't think there's any question about that. It's not that easy, and it will do more harm than good. This is going to be the catalyst for the SEC and the Big Ten separating if we're not careful. And more specifically, 2 conference commissioners, Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips. If they're not careful, they will be as responsible as Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey of further splintering the entire sport. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Nick Saban Could he have a new role? We'll find out. It's College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show, again, brought to you by our good friends at Rocket Money. I'll tell you what, I had four different audio streaming services. I'm not the biggest music guy anyway. Popped it into Rocket Money. Rocket Money told me what I was paying for, why I was paying for it, and I canceled what I didn't need. Hey, did Rocket Money help find any subscriptions that you forgot about or were paying for too long? Definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions, like I said, with a bunch of audio services. Didn't need them at all. Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals by going to rocketmoney.com. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. Rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's right. Rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Okay, so there is something else happening in our world of college athletics. James Franklin at Penn State Media Day, Fiesta Bowl Media Day on Monday, was asked about the current state of college athletics, which, I mean, during the season, I'll be honest with you, they all get asked about this, and it's like, oh my gosh, just ask about the damn season. Ask about the damn team, the game, whatever. No, it's always off the field stuff. Always. Never ends. But James was asked about the possibility of a commissioner of college football, and he says this: I think one of the most important things we can do, let's get a commissioner of college football that is waking up every single morning and going to bed every single night, making decisions that's in the best interest of college football. I think Nick Saban would be the obvious choice if we made that decision. Now, Nick will probably call me tonight and say, don't do this, but I think he's the obvious choice, right? Well, first of all, I have no doubt that Nick called James Franklin and was like, dude, don't say that. First of all, Nick's cursing on Saturdays on game day and living 6 days a week at the lake in Northeast Georgia. I think he's fine. Here's the thing about this commissioner thing, and we hear this all the time. How are you going to consolidate power? How is the entire network, the entire ecosystem going to come together and find a way to have a leader? It's not going to happen. Why isn't it going to happen? Because if you do this, and look, I'm all for having a college football commissioner, 100% on board with it. It's not realistic. You're going to ask Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, Brett Yormark, Jim Phillips, all 5 group of 5 commissioners, everybody at the college football playoff level, everybody at the NCAA office in Indianapolis, all of them who have varying different degrees of power, but they all have power. You're going to ask all of them to relinquish that to one person in one office somewhere in this country. Again, love the idea, never going to happen. Because on top of that, on top of these people giving up power, which you're never going to get, they're also going to have to give up money because they will not have the power. And with the power comes the paycheck, and that paycheck is not going to come from a powerful place anymore, at least as powerful. So look, James Franklin's 100% right. He is 100% right. There should be a commissioner of college football, but it cannot happen without 100% consensus from 15 different entities with 15 different functions. Is that going to happen? No, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. What is more realistic is that you're going to have commissioners joining together with various kinds of alliances. Bad word, I know. Alliances in this setting is a dirty word. After that alliance that 3 conferences had a few years ago, but we're sort of already seeing it anyway, right? Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey have sort of become BFFs. Jim Phillips and Brett Yormark are sort of sitting there trying to figure out, hey, what about us? Wait. And the group of 5 commissioners don't care. And then Notre Dame's like, yeah, whatever. We'll go along with the Big Ten and the SEC. It's fine. All those people have to come together. The CFP has to come together. Charlie Baker, the NCAA office in Indianapolis, has to come together. Not happening. So, look, James Franklin's right. I think Nick Saban would be a great person for that job. I think he'd be crazy to take it because 6 days a week at the lake and then 1 day a week cussing on game day sounds like a pretty good gig if you can get it. It's just not realistic. It's what in this world, in any world, in any business, in any corporation or sport, it's easy to throw out good ideas because there are a lot of them. But execution of those ideas is what really matters. And in certain businesses or in certain sports, the execution is very nice, very clean, very simple. Nothing about college athletics is clean or simple. And that's where we are right now. And it's exactly why a commissioner will never happen. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. We'll be down at the Peach Bowl. Peach Bowl semifinal coming up on Wednesday afternoon. So we'll have all your post-game coverage there. Also, squad show after the Rose Bowl, which will be a lot of fun with the crew here at Locked On as well. Enjoy the Fiesta Bowl. Enjoy the Peach Bowl. We'll talk to you when things wrap up from Atlanta.